I'm over here at the shop today. I was feeding the animals and I texted Jamie. I'm like, hey, what do you want to do for a video today? I'm stumped on ideas. She's like, I don't know, surprise me. So we're gonna go into the barn and see what we can find. This is kind of where we just stuffed everything we didn't have room for when we moved. And when we say we're full of stuff, we mean it. Saving those for another project. Broken bench. We've got these benches back here. This one got way too chippy. We probably need to sand it off. I think I'm gonna grab these benches and let's finish them and get them sold. They're really cool. This bench here we did on a Waste Not Wednesday and it looks great, but it got a little chippier than we want. We didn't let it dry because it was a live stream and it just got way too chippy when we heat gunned it because it wasn't quite dry. So I think I'll sand this off and we'll try again. So are you surprised I brought benches?
We're gonna be fixing this bench. It's super chippy, so we're just gonna sand it and then decide where to go from that. And then this bench, we're going to be covering up the Scout situation on it and doing a two-tone layer chippy finish. So if you want to follow along and shop the same products, make sure you're visiting JamiRayVintage.com and we're gonna get started. So to base coat this, we're gonna use DIY's Cottage Color. It's the Jami Ray Vintage Gray Skies. Has a built-in top coat, primer, all the things. So that's gonna cover up this ugly yellow oak as well as the Scout situation on top. Make sure when you get this that you shake it up because you don't want the top coat to separate from the paint. Cottage Color is all-in-one and it's all natural, so it's totally safe to do it inside. And the Gray Skies actually have pretty good coverage, so we'll just wind up doing one coat on this and then we'll be ready for our next layer. It's also self-leveling, so while you will get some brush strokes, it will lay pretty flat. We got one coat coverage with this.
So Jamie is loving this, just how it kind of got real chippy like old barnwood. But we're gonna try to cover up the red and hide it a little bit. Not necessarily, I guess hide's the wrong word. We're gonna disguise it.
So my favorite trick in my arsenal is to dry brush. I'm gonna use Gray Skies, I already have the brush out. You get most of your paint off the brush, hence the term dry brush, because you want to just lightly go over the surface, and then you're just gonna brush it easy breezy across, and that's gonna leave the original chippy finish on there, but also give you a little bit more of a gray coverage. So I like to go in both directions so it's not streaky. And then I'll come back when my brush is mostly dry, and like if I don't really like this area, I'll give it a little bit more of a dry brush. All right, we're gonna do a little paint alchemy. Is that the right word, Zib?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna be taking the Vintage Mint in the Cottage Color, adding a little bit of the paint frosting. The directions on the back say 0.2%. I just put a capful in there. And it's supposed to take up to 12 hours to get thick, but because this has a built-in top coat, it happens right before your eyes. I'm gonna pour my Vintage Mint in here. Oops, I should have shaked it first. It's okay, because I'm gonna stir it.
Shook it, shaked it.
Shaked it, whatever. Make sure you shake it because it has a built-in top coat. And then I'm just gonna pour a little half a capful situation in there. That's 0.2%. And I'm gonna stir it in, and you're gonna notice it's already thickening up. Work fast because it's gonna be ready to go. The trick to making this look good is to just kind of pounce it on there. You don't have to make it perfect. You could also like thicken it and mush it. It's just a paint thickener, but you gotta work quick because you're only gonna have about 30 minutes from the time you mix it up to the time that it's pretty gelatinous.
That's with the Cottage Colors because of the built-in sealer.
Yeah, sorry, that's with Cottage Colors. You're only gonna have about 30 minutes. So just mix up what you can actually use in 30 minutes, and then you can mix up more if you need it. If you want to kind of soften it, you can softly take your brush and go over it, and it's not as pouncy. Don't push hard, like I literally am giving no weight to this, and you can smooth it out a little bit as it dries.
In between steps, we bring them out here on the front walk to dry out. It's about 75 today, and they dry out pretty quick in the sun here. This piece had milk paint and DIY paint on it, and when it got super chippy, we just put it in the barn and didn't mess with sealing it, so it's gonna need sealed because the dry brush is not enough to seal the whole piece. So just like with paint, I like to get a heavy coat of wax on there, and then I come back through and kind of smooth it out and buff it in with circular motions.
So this is going to be an off-label use. Definitely isn't necessary, but I want to get some bubbles, like kind of warty looks, you know, when paint gets all crusty and old. And so I'm just using my heat gun. You could use a blow dryer, and I'm just causing the paint to bubble. Be careful that you don't burn the paint. So this is like next level +5. So one of the things that can happen when you have a bubble is you can kind of pop it and it kind of makes the paint chippy. So that's fun. Zeb is going to be buffing, and then this is done. So I really like how the cottage color just kind of ties everything together, and it's easy. So if you have an existing piece and you just want to kind of add a little something, just add a dry brush. And you wouldn't necessarily have to wax. Zeb just has to wax the DIY paint that was underneath. Right, Zeb?
Right. These ends are the chippiest, they're good.
We had our manufacturer make us a custom Jami Ray vintage stencil, so I'm just gonna, oops, I shifted. I'm gonna stencil this up.
It's okay, it's the bottom. It's like a grain sack. They weren't really worried about logos being perfect.
Ta-da!
Looks great to me. Jami had to take a lunch break. She was getting hangry. So I'm gonna show you how we're gonna put the gray on this again. So we're back with the gray skies, and this time it's not going to be a dry brush, but I'm also not necessarily going for full coverage. I'm just gonna get my brush medium, you know, brush it off so it's not got super excess drippy, and then I'm just gonna kind of feather it in on the edges, because this gray, once it dries, will be the same color. So this is mostly gray, all that vintage green is covered up now, and we're gonna take it back outside in the sun, let it dry off, and then we're gonna distress it and show you what we get.
So because this has a built-in sealer, I don't wanna use any sandpaper that's like super coarse. So I've got fine grit, and I'm just gonna sand off where the mint was before. Hopefully this gave you some good information about the cottage color paint, but you're like, hey Jami, I don't want it to be distressed. Then just go back to the time point where I just had the gray and then stop. If you want more texture, then you just add the second layer, you've got the frosting in there, and this has a built-in sealer, so this actually needs no more work.
Yep, so this one we waxed because it had the DIY paint on it, which is porous originally, so we waxed over the top of that. This one was done as soon as we were finished sanding.
If you want to buy the paint and products used today, visit JamiRayVintage.com, and we'll link them in the description box below. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Jami Ray Vintage for more
DIY.